So I've just put the box scraper on the tractor because I have to grade some of our driveway. It's gotten quite rutted with the heavy rains we had recently. So I use the box scraper to scrape the top surface of the driveway and to smooth it out at the same time. So a box scraper is, as the name suggests, basically a large metal box that has three sides. It has two sides at a back, closed sides I should say, and along the front bar there's 6 or so teeth that you can adjust up or down that dig into the soil ahead of the box or at the front of the box. And then at the back of the box there's often a couple blades. There's one that's on the inside facing forward and one on the back that faces backwards, so you can push or pull the soil with this implement. Because it's a box, you can pull quite a load of soil in this. So depending what you're trying to do, you need to figure out how to adjust the box to best suit your purposes. Now for this job, because I want to just scrape the surface of the driveway a little bit, maybe 2 or 3 inches deep, and then pull the soil that's scraped up resulting from the teeth scarifying into the front of the soil here. I don't want to have this set too aggressively. Now the setting of this is done by adjusting the top link of the 3-point hitch. So you can see here on the tractor, this top link can adjust the angle of this box, so I can screw it or unscrew it one way or the other, and it'll tilt the box up or down. Now a lot of tractors have hydraulic top links, so you can just sit on the cab and do that with hydraulic controls. This one is the old manual style. But what I think I want for this job is a bit of a tilt. So you can see here this box is tilted forward a little bit. That's just to enable the teeth to grab in a little easier. Now I'm going to raise these teeth. They're set at their lowest point right now. I'm going to raise those so they don't dig into the driveway so much. But you can see on this level, there's where the box would be if it was level. You can see how much I've raised the front of the level to show you where the level line would be. So you can see I've lowered the front of it, lowered the front of the box with the top link of the, by pulling in the top link on the 3-point hitch. So it lowers the box this way, just to give it a bit of an aggressive dig. And now I'm going to raise these teeth so they're not as low, and I'm hoping that setting might be good for the job I'm going to do, just grading the top surface of the driveway a little bit and smoothing it out. So to adjust these teeth, you pull out the little cotter pin here on one end of the bar that goes through the top, or the holes in the tooth bar. So there you see, there's the tooth bar. I can't bring it out because it's too low, but you can see the number of hole settings that are in each individual tooth. So I'm going to bring this up to the top setting. That way the teeth won't dig us deep into the soil. Now, everything depends on the aggression you want to have with your box scraper. If you want it to be quite aggressive, you might have the teeth right down and then the box tilted even more forwards. If you want to be less aggressive, you have your teeth up and the box less forwards and maybe more backwards or even flat, depending what you're doing. I'm just sort of, it's a lot of guesswork until you've done this yourself. And this may not be the perfect setup for what I want to do, but I think it'll do the job for what I'm trying to do here today. Just smoothing out the driveway, digging in a little bit, and then smoothing out a little bit. So I've raised all my cutting teeth to their highest level. I've got the slight tilt forward on the box scraper. You also want to make sure that the scraper this way is level, unless you're intentionally trying to dig more on one side or the other. And you do that by using your adjusting arm for one of the lifting arms. So usually on a 3-point hitch it's this right side, so I could adjust this up or down using this lever here. Just turn it like that. This one's fairly level now as far as I can see, so we'll go with that. This particular scraper is a 6-foot wide scraper. Generally you get one that covers the width of your tractor, so it would actually go out and a bit beyond the width of your tires. So this will give you a look at the driveway and show you how rutted it is. Here's a long rut here. It's probably 4 or 5 inches deep. And you can see they're sort of like canals have been eroded out of the driveway, making it quite bumpy in places. Lots of gouges, river valleys created through the heavy rains. Just want to smooth this out. Here's some pretty severe gouging here. Now the trouble that I will encounter is that the lower levels below this finer gravel are laid down with heavier cobble typically, and we really need to add some standard gravel to this, but as I scrape down I will almost inevitably gouge up some of this heavier cobble. As you can see here, the rain has done itself, so you can see these are fairly sizable aggregates here, unlike the surface 3/4 aggregate or whatever it's called. I think it's 3/4. So when I dig it up, that's why I don't want to dig too deep. You don't want to dig up too much of this stuff. But like I said, we should probably order some loads of gravel to fill in that, make it thicker, the top coat. Now the box scraper is working pretty good, but I think it's tilted just a little bit too far forward. I'm gonna bring the front up a bit here so it's not digging in quite as much. And I do that again by turning this thing. You can see here how much threads are showing, and I'll just move that a bit so it's changed. So there, I've just moved it out here about 1 inch, which lets the box scraper tilt backwards another 1 or 2 inches as well, roughly. We'll see how that goes. It may not make a huge difference, but it might just cut in a little less. Oh, I must have had it set right the first time, because when I tried it at this angle, it wasn't scraping in at all. So I'll have to reset it to pretty well where it was, I guess. All trial and error with this stuff, unless you have a nice hydraulic adjustment, and then you can just do it on the fly, which is nice if you can have it. see the pothole right there in front of the tractor? Watch as I turn around, and you'll note a lot of the dirt falling out of the box scraper here, right there. There we go. That's how it naturally fills holes when it goes over them. I love the smell of diesel in the afternoon. Smells like victory. So I've been up and down the driveway about 3 times now, doing one side at a time. So let's go see what kind of a job I did. It's tricky with these things, especially when you have the manual controls. So I brought a rake here. I'm just going to rake out a few lumps that I left. It's hard to get everything perfect, but at least you'll see that I've gotten rid of the ruts. This is the bottom of the driveway. Just have to rake out a few of these bigger clumps that I left. Just sometimes when you raise and lower the box scraper, you're left with a bit of a hump. You can see some of the larger cobble here too, but the driveway is much smoother now. The interesting thing about the box scraper, it's sort of easy to get intimidated because as you go along, the whole box fills up with gravel and you think you're destroying the driveway. But what that does is it carries a box full of gravel and sand and dirt along with it. And whenever it encounters a low area underneath it, a bit of that gravel and dirt drops out. Fills in the low area. Now here I've got a bit of a raised amount, but that's okay. So it naturally drops some of its load as it goes. A lot of that depends how you have it adjusted and everything else, but by and large it works pretty good. So if you go over a deep rut or a deep hole, it carries that load over it and then drops the amount sort of needed to fill it in. And if you go over a hole or a rut a few times, that does a better job at just sort of filling it in. Here I've got a bit of an edge. I'm just going to rake out here. Flattening out some of these raised edges I've left. Hard to get it perfect. So the driveway looks pretty smooth. Just did a little bit of raking to get some of the bumps out. There's still a few depressions that aren't quite filled. I actually need to bring in a load of gravel and fill some of these holes. Here's one right here, for example, that didn't quite fill up quite fully, but I smoothed it out a bit. Yeah, so it looks pretty good. I mean, there's always imperfections when you're using large chunks of machinery like that, but it's gotten the ruts out and the grooves and the potholes for the most part. So just need to pack it down now, and again probably should add some gravel because our gravel's getting pretty light here in the matrix of sand and earth.